We start with the one name in this video I have no argument with. Puka Nacua was the best fantasy receiver in football last season, and he is the first off the board this year. The market and the scoreboard agree. That almost never happens, and it did not happen overnight. 3 years ago, he was pick 177, a fifth rounder out of BYU. The room that takes him first today spent 4 full rounds not taking him at all. So when a draft room finally gets a player right, do not talk yourself out of him because right feels boring. Do not be that person. Look at what Nacua actually did. He caught more footballs than any receiver in the league, not the most yards, not the most scores, the most catches. In a point per reception league, that means the highest weekly floor at the position, touchdowns or not. And then in week 16, with your semifinal on the line, he turned in the biggest game any receiver in this video had all year. That is the whole player. The safest weekly output on the board, attached to a ceiling nobody else reached. That costs you a top 3 pick. He was the #1 receiver in fantasy. So where's the trap? I have looked for it. There's not one. The only flaw on his resume is 1 missed game, and if that is the strongest objection at your table, I will live with it. Take him, do not blink, and do not try to be the smartest person in your league. Our call league winner. Now the one that gets me out of my chair. Nobody in the National Football League gained more receiving yards last season than Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Not a receiver. Not a tight end. Not a running back. Nobody else. He also played all 17 games, the part everyone skips until the week your best receiver is inactive and your bench is a disaster. So he led the sport in yardage, never missed a Sunday, is 24 years old, and he is the 3rd receiver drafted. Sit with that for a second. The 2 names going ahead of him are excellent, and both missed a game he did not. There is no injury discount here. There is nothing on his card that explains it. Leading the sport in receiving yards is the least touchdown-dependent way to score fantasy points, which means his floor does not need the end zone. That is the profile you want anchoring a roster. The room has liked him since the day he arrived, first receiver taken in 2023, 20th overall out of Ohio State. Liked him and still not enough. 3 years on, the yardage leader in professional football goes around pick 6. That is not a bargain in the coupon sense. That is the room being polite about a player who already did what everyone is projected to do. And if you pick in the first 8, he is the name that makes the next 3 hours feel easy. I do not say this often this early. I would rather have him than the 2 in front of him. Our call target. Amon-Ra Chase is where confidence and honesty have to share a sentence. Start with the part nobody can take away. No player in the league was thrown the football more often. Not once. Volume is the only input you can bank on because talent fluctuates and touchdowns are weather. Targets are a decision a coaching staff makes 17 times a year, and they made it for him more than anyone in football. That is a floor almost nobody else in this video owns. Now the honest half, because you deserve both halves. He finished 4th at the position on a team that lost 11 games. He was a possession receiver last year more than a field flipper, and the touchdowns never arrived. If you want to call him the best receiver in fantasy, the argument is targets, not the scoreboard. The expert consensus does have him first. The draft rooms take him second. Either way, you pay a top 4 price, so the practical question is whether that volume ever walks out the door. Nothing on this card says it will. And there is a version of this season where the luck turns, the volume stays, and the best receiver argument stops being a question. I am not calling him a value and not a trap either. He is the least complicated first-round receiver on the board, and that is worth more than upside. Our call draft. Amon-Ra St. Brown is where I have to be careful, because nothing here is wrong and I still cannot get excited. He was priced as the 4th receiver last summer and he finished 3rd. He played every game. He tied for the most touchdowns in this tier. On paper, that is a clean, faintly boring first-round pick, and the market has him 4th again. So where does my hesitation come from? It comes from how he gets there. He is a volume profile, not a creation profile. He will not end your week with 1 play from his own 20. He catches a dozen small things and turns them into an afternoon. That works as long as the targets keep arriving. He has no rescue button. Compare that with the 3 men you just heard about, any of whom can save a Sunday with 1 snap. So you are paying around pick 7 for the highest floor in the tier and the least upside. That is not a criticism of the player. That is a description of the price. And there is a roster angle in that price. If you are spending early picks on backs and need one receiver you never think about on a Sunday morning, this is that man. I would happily draft him. I would just never take him around early to feel safe. Or call fair. Tier 2. First round money, first round risk. Every name here costs a first or an early second, and everyone arrives with a question. The difference is what you are charged to take it on. 2 are priced as though it does not exist. 1 is priced as though it is all that matters. And 1 is the widest gap in this video between what a man did and what he costs. Watch the prices, not the names. Here is a number nobody has on their cheat sheet. Drake London finished last season as the 19th receiver in point per reception scoring, which reads like a bench guy. It is not that at all. He played 12 games. Do the division, and this is the part to hold on to. Per game, he scored more than CeeDee Lamb, more than T. Higgins, more than Justin Jefferson. That is a first-round rate inside a season total nobody bothered to divide. His best afternoon came in Week 9, a 3-touchdown game, which is not a possession receiver's ceiling. That is a man who can win a week by himself. Season totals reward attendance. Per game rates reward the football player, and the distance between them is where this tier lives. I will not tell you why he missed those 5 games because I could not verify it, and I will not guess. What I will tell you is the price. Around pick 10, 5th receiver off the board, ahead of where the experts would take him. And I am telling you to pay it anyway. That is the uncomfortable kind of value call. The price is not low, the rate underneath it is just higher. Give him 17 games at that number and pick 10 looks like larceny by Thanksgiving. Or call target. CeeDee Lamb worries me, and the worry is not the one you are expecting. The yardage was still excellent. On a per-game basis, he was every bit the star you remember. That is not the problem. The problem is he scored 3 receiving touchdowns in an entire season. 3. And his best week of the year, the very top of what he gave anybody, was a total Puka Nacua beat 6 times. When your best game is another man's ordinary Sunday, you are not winning weeks. You are surviving them. Some of that is rotten luck, and 3 touchdowns for a player of his quality is a regression candidate. Those come back. Nobody stays that cold in the end zone 2 years running. But the touchdowns are only half of what went wrong, and the other half worries me more. What does not automatically come back is the availability. He suffered a high ankle sprain in Week 3 against Chicago, and it cost him that afternoon and the 3 games after it. So here's your actual decision. You are paying a mid-first round price for a season that finished outside the top 20. If the touchdowns return, that price is exactly right. If the missed time returns instead, that is the pick that ends your season in September. I am not fading him. I am not reaching for him either. Or call fair. I have read this one 4 times and still do not believe it. George Pickens was the 5th best receiver in fantasy last season. He played all 17 games. He averaged more yards per catch than anyone in this video, big plays, not a target monopoly. And he did all of it on the same roster as CeeDee Lamb. Same offense, same quarterback, same weather. He outscored his own teammate by 91 points. 91. That is not a rounding error. One man had a top 5 season. The guy across the formation had a 22nd place season. So what does the market do with that information? It takes Lamb in the middle of the first round and Pickens 10 picks later in the second. 10 picks. For the player who scored more. I do not have a clever explanation. Sometimes a draft room takes the name it remembers instead of the season that happened, and that is what it looks like on a board. The expert consensus is slightly closer to reality, but only slightly. So here is how you use this. Let somebody else spend a first on the Dallas receiver they have heard of. You spend a second on the Dallas receiver who outscored him, and put the round you saved into a back. If Pickens is there at that price while a smaller season goes around earlier, take him and do not apologize. Or call target. This one makes me genuinely angry, and I mean that productively. Justin Jefferson played all 17 games last season. He was targeted more than 140 times. He gained over 1,000 yards. And he scored 2 receiving touchdowns. 2. His best single week of the year, the game you would put on a highlight reel, did not contain a touchdown. That is not decline. That is a coin landing on its edge for 4 straight months. Nobody catches that many footballs for that many yards and scores twice and then does it again. It does not work that way. Look at the shape of it. The route running did not disappear, the targets did not disappear, the yardage did not disappear, one column did, and it is the column that swings a fantasy season. And the frustrating part is what it took to get here. It took the unluckiest touchdown season of his career to make the room stop charging full retail. He finished 21st. He is going around pick 14, 8th at the position, behind men who never had his best month. You are being handed a first-round talent at a second-round price because of the most random statistic in the sport. I do not care what his touchdown column said in January. I care that the targets and the yards never went anywhere. By the profile, not the box score. Or called by Tier 3. You are buying games, not seasons. Both give you a per-game number that plays like a first-round receiver and a season total that does not. That is a real bet and a defensible one at the right number. One is priced as though the games are guaranteed. The other is priced as though they never happen at all. Rashee Rice is the cleanest disagreement in this video, and I am on the skeptical side of it. Give him everything he earned first. When he was on the field, only 4 receivers in this video scored at a higher rate per game, and all 4 are Tier 1. That is not noise. In that offense at that rate, the ceiling argument is completely legitimate. Here's my problem with it. You played 8 games. 8. And neither bookend is the kind you wave away. A 6-game suspension under the personal conduct policy opened his season, and a concussion closed it on injured reserve. So the sample is 8 games, and what truncated it was availability, not ability. Now look at what that sample costs you. The expert consensus ranks him 12th at the position. The draft rooms are taking him 7th inside round 1. When the professionals and the market disagree by 5 spots, somebody is wrong, and it is usually the room. And if he goes back to that rate for a full season, whoever drafted him wins his league. I would just rather that person be somebody at the other end of your table. The talent is real. The price assumes 17 games, and he has not given anybody 17 games. Are called fair. T. Higgins is the pick I would make with the least hesitation in the back half of this list, and the argument is one comparison. Amon-Ra St. Brown scored 11 receiving touchdowns last season on 172 targets. T. Higgins scored 11 receiving touchdowns on 98. Identical production in the category that decides fantasy weeks on 74 fewer opportunities. Now put that in its context. He plays alongside Jamar Chase, the most targeted receiver in football. Higgins is not competing with that. He is the finishing half of it. Chase moves the football, Higgins ends the drive, and that offense throws enough to feed both. He finished 16th at the position in 15 games as the second option on his own team. So what is the room charging for the scoring half of the offense that fed one man more targets than anyone in the league? A 4th-round pick. The 19th receiver off the board, more than 20 picks after receivers who do not score. The experts have him 18th, so nobody is even arguing about him. He is quietly cheap, and quietly cheap is my favorite thing in a draft. There's no story here. No breakout narrative, no reason for anybody at your table to get emotional. That is exactly why the price stays where it is. You do not need a receiver nobody has heard of. You need a receiver everybody has stopped talking about. Or called by Tier 4, where the market is wrong. These last 2 are a matched pair, and the reason we counted up instead of down. One, the room is far too low on. The other, the room is far too high on. Same board, same August, opposite mistakes. See both and you walk out with a roster nobody else can build. Courtland Sutton's price makes me laugh out loud, and very little does anymore. He finished 13th among all receivers last season. He played every single week, all 17, no inactive Sundays, no managing him in and out of your lineup. And the expert consensus this summer has him 39th. 39th. That is a 26-spot canyon between what he did and what the experts expect, and I have stared at it looking for the reason. Here is the honest version because you deserve the counterweight and not just the highlight. There is a reason. He turns 30 in October, and his teammate Troy Franklin finished 31st on that same offense, so there is another mouth in the target pie. I am not pretending those things are nothing. I am telling you they are not 26 spots of something. Not for a receiver who suited up every week and finished top 13. And the draft rooms are ahead of the experts, 5th round, 30th at the position. That is still a bench price for a man who started every week. Understand what a free roll means here. If the age curve wins, you lose a 5th round pick, which costs you nothing. If it does not, you have a weekly starter on your bench. Take the free roll. Our call is sleeper, and we finish on the one that scares me. Malik Nabers is 23 years old and on pure talent, one of the most gifted receivers alive. That is not in dispute. Nothing here is about whether he is good. In week 2, he went to Dallas and put together the kind of afternoon that wins a fantasy week single-handedly, and it is thrilling. 2 weeks later, he tore his ACL and his meniscus against the Chargers and had surgery in late October. And then, the part the draft room is not pricing, he had a second procedure this past May to clean out scar tissue. 3 months ago. So what is the market doing with a 4-game season? It is drafting him in the 3rd round, around pick 33, the 16th receiver off the board. The room is not drafting last season. The room is drafting that one Sunday in Dallas before the rest of it happened. And I understand the pull. But that is a 3rd round pick on a knee that needed a second operation this spring, and I would rather be wrong on a healthy receiver. He is 23. He will be worth this price again and more. Just not this August. If he slides 2 rounds, we are having a different conversation. At that price, the knee is in the price. At this one, it is not. Our call, avoid. Before the recap, one honest housekeeping item. These are 12 receivers, and these are our tiers. They are not the only 12 who matter. Nico Collins, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, and Zay Flowers all live inside the consensus top 20, and none of them got a segment. That is not a statement about any of them. If your board has one of those names where we put ours, you are not wrong. A ranking is an argument, not a fact. So here is the board one last time and how I would use it on draft night. Tier 1 is where you stop thinking Nacua, Smith-Njigba, Chase, St. Brown. Take whichever falls to you. Tier 2 wins or loses your 1st round, and I would force Pickens and Jefferson, one because the room forgot what he did, the other because it cannot stop remembering what he did not. Tier 3 is a bet on a rate, and Higgins is the one I would make it on. And Tier 4 is the pair of mistakes, 26 spots too low on Sutton, a full round too high on a knee that had surgery in May. Take one thing away from this video. The season a player had is public information. The price he costs is a group opinion. Your entire edge lives in the space between them, and in August that space is as wide as it gets. That is the wide receivers. Tight ends are next, and that room is even worse at pricing them. Good luck in your draft.